Welcome to Homeschool is a Work of Heart. I'm Melissa Webb, and after years in the classroom and years homeschooling and supporting those in home education, and even more years creating curriculum for families like yours, I have learned this. Homeschooling isn't about perfection. It is about purpose. And this podcast is here to encourage you, to guide you, and to remind you that what you're doing truly matters. Are you ready to get started? Let's go. Hey there, homeschoolers. Welcome back to another episode of Homeschool is a Work of Heart. I'm really glad you're here. I actually want to travel back a bit with you before we jump in and talk about the skimming society that I am seeing happen all around me. But can you first, before we go there, just walk back in time with me? I want you to imagine it's your middle school or your junior high days, okay? I know a lot of us don't want to go back there. It will be temporary. But let's just say that you are walking into your history class and everyone sits down and the teacher stands at the front of the class and says, okay, kiddos, today we are going to head to Egypt. Grab your textbooks. Let's take a look at the map on page 77. Okay, does everybody see the Nile River? Yes, that was the lifeline of ancient Egypt. And it happens to be the longest river in the world. Who knows something else about the Nile River? And hands are raising and the teacher's looking around and then is like, hey, Cassie, are you on the right page? That was how we learned for many of us. We were literally all on the same page, in the same room, at the same time. We stayed at the same pace. And if someone wasn't paying attention, like maybe passing notes, the teachers often caught that and would call it out, right? Brandon, why don't you put that note away? Save that for break, right? Something like that. Things have changed. They have changed drastically. And I think that's a good thing. Now, many people are choosing home education, and I'm a fan. I am a big fan of learning at home. It is possible to do it, but it is a really important full-time job. So home educators these days use a lot of digital tools like video instruction. And they use that to teach at home because they don't want to teach all the things or they don't feel that that's their strongest suit. I am such a fan of outsourcing. I think it's brilliant. In fact, I create digital products for families because I love teaching writing. I have tons of great ideas for teaching writing. I can make it fun for the kids. But no form of instruction is free from potential problems, whether that's the classroom problems or what I'm seeing now as digital learning problems. And as a home educator, you need to be paying attention. You need to know if Cassie is on the right page or if Brandon is passing notes. We still need that human connection with the kids. Super important. I recently had that saying in my head, Houston, we have a problem. We're collecting our first set of essays for the spring semester, and I am noticing more now than ever some issues. And as educators, I 100% think we need to be aware of what's happening and we need to be diligent instructors. And I am confident that families see this. I know educators see it, but students are not learning the way we need them to, especially with recorded lessons and online learning. And I will tell you what I'm seeing, and I'm sure you have some things that are already popping into your mind. But I have students who, when they watch my instructional videos, they're doing it at very high speeds. They just want to say, I watched the video and I talk too slow in their opinion. So they want to put me on 2.5, 3 times as fast sometimes. They also are only half listening, or maybe not at all listening. They're zoning out. They also tend to multitask a ton. They are skimming ideas instead of thinking, even pausing the video. They're just wanting to get to the end. And when kids and adults, we do this too, when they think they are learning, but in fact, their brains are not processing deeply, we're going to see problems. They're not going to retain what they just saw. They're not going to fully understand, and they're certainly not going to be able to apply the information that they learned. So what ends up happening? We're trading quality of attention for this fleeting quantity of content. And it's not a moral issue. These are not bad kids. These are amazing kids. But it is a cognitive problem, and it's going to be strongly rooted in how their brains work moving forward. And I think we need to be aware of this because we're all doing it. We are all skimming in today's society. Fast, fast, fast. And while skimming actually feels good, it does. The problem is it doesn't work for excellent learning. It's one thing if you're scrolling and skimming through Instagram and you're catching something that made you chuckle and then moving on to something else. That's not a learning environment. If we're skimming though when we're supposed to be learning, that's when we have a problem. And I have students who truly believe, I just think that if I listen twice as fast, I'm going to learn twice as much and it's going to happen twice as quickly. Really? No, it's not how it works. They've done some studies on this. The problem is double the speed at which we watch a video or we listen to a lecture does not equal better learning. And even though playback speed is an issue, I wouldn't even say that's the most concerning issue. Yes, it is an issue. But they've, as I mentioned, done some studies with older students, and they had to watch a recorded lecture, and it went all the way up to 2 times as fast. So they did it at different speeds, like 1 times the speed, 1.2 times the speed, 1.5, all the way up to 2. And what they found for the majority of them is that it didn't dramatically lower the recall of what they learned when it was all compared to what was considered the normal speed. They did slower at normal speed, faster. But the thing with this particular study that I found also said that it was controlled conditions and they would take a short test right after they watched the video. So not necessarily a real world example. But like I said, I do think playback speed is an issue, especially students who go over 2 times. I tell my students, please keep it at 1.2 to 1.5 speed, because more than 2, and 2 is pretty fast, but more than 2, we really start to run into some problems. But that's not the only problem. There are a few things that I consider to be the real cognitive costs that go along with skimming when we're supposed to be learning at a deeper level. So yes, playback speed, but are children multitasking while learning? And these are things I really want you to pay attention to in your home. So kids could have their video on that they're supposed to be watching that's teaching them a math concept or a history lesson, or for me, the writing process, all the steps for writing an essay. So they have it playing in the background, but they also have a game on the smartphone while they're listening, or on their tablet, or they have another tab open and they're reading an email or sending an email to a different teacher, or maybe they're texting somebody or messaging somebody or gaming on another video console. And yeah, they have the video instruction going somewhere else, but it's in the background. That's a problem. There's also a chance that attention is split across multiple streams, such as I know a lot of families have to drive places. So they'll be like, here, just take my phone, watch today's video instruction, right, on my phone or maybe a tablet. And so now you've got a child in a car with siblings talking, and maybe the parent even has music on, and there are things out the window to look at. That's a lot of distractions. That's not excellent learning. That's not the environment we want, because all of this is leading to the bigger issue, and that is a lack of deeper thinking. And if deeper thinking is not happening, then comprehension and the transfer of information from what I learned to what I'm applying are far less likely to take place. So it's the attention to what is on that video that is so much more important than the speed of the video. So I'm fine if you want to go up to 1.5 or 1.75, but it's really important that we're teaching them how to pay attention, because when the brain is in what I would consider a continuous partial attention mode, constantly switching tasks or skimming the content or checking an alert, a notification, then the working memory and the focus are going to suffer. And let's be so clear that this is not me speaking from my opinion. This is what I am seeing. This is what cognitive science is telling us. This is a new generation issue that we must be aware of and do something about. It's funny because skimming does feel efficient in a lot of ways. It's fast, it's dopamine friendly, but it does not build long-term understanding. So while there are things that are probably just fine to skim over, education is not one of them. It's just tricking the learner into believing they understood something, they got it, when in fact they really didn't. They didn't get it if they were skimming and going far too fast and not giving it the attention that they needed. There are some very high stakes we are facing in our skimming society. Learning by passive skimming does produce so many issues. And like I said, I'm seeing more of them all the time. One, this very superficial recall. Students are not getting the deep understanding that I'm trying to get across to them. Two, they have this inability to follow multi-step directions. They get part, but they don't get everything. Three, I'm seeing weaker critical problem-solving skills. Four, also poor retention of what I've covered. And five, I am hearing all the time kids saying, I watched it, I just don't remember that part. So they're not actually learning something that they're taking away with them. And I wouldn't even say it's laziness per se. I mean, it could be in some cases, of course, but no matter what, these are consequences of how digital poor habits are going to shape the attention of our children if we aren't super careful. So in our writing program, I have come down pretty hard on this growing problem. Our whole team is all in agreement that we're seeing and witnessing these things firsthand. So we are putting up the big stop sign and holding out our hand and saying, stop. This is not going to go on any longer. So in our program, at the end of a month, students will submit an essay. But what's happening is we are opening them up to review them. And quickly and clearly, we are seeing that these children are not following the instructions. And it may sound harsh for me to say this, but I believe that letting students get away with ignoring directions is not helping them. It's really not, even though they will tell me, but I worked so hard on this other part. I come back and say, got it, proud of you, but you need to work hard on all the parts. If we are not doing that, I think we are harming their ability to learn and to follow through. We're saying, hey, skimming is okay. I'll figure it out. I'll try to figure out what you meant to say here or how you could have probably made it better. I'll just work around you. But that's not what we need to do as educators at all. There would be big consequences. And I do believe that if we do not start holding students accountable, we're going to see more of this. Students who think that watching a video at 2 times the speed, 3 times the speed is good, right? That equals understanding. That as long as they did it, then it's good enough, rather than really wanting to learn it and apply it. I'm so afraid we're going to see students where they are turning in their work, and we as educators are building our own tolerance for their incomplete or their shabby work. Just like, well, they did their best. Really? No, we need to raise the bar. It's a new era, my friends. Education should look different, but we have got to play a big role in it. Parents who support their kids without supporting accountability will unintentionally teach kids that direction following doesn't matter. And that's not true. And it's not fair to our kids either. So what are we going to do? Should we go back to putting our kids in classroom settings? You could. It's always an option. Or should you just sign up for online classes that are live only? You could do that too, but I hear those students also are not held accountable. In many of those situations, I have teachers who tell me, I can't get my online students to pay attention. They're always multitasking. So I don't think it's the format that is the real issue here. You have options. You could go to a classroom, sit your child down in there. The thing is, if there are other kids in there that are disruptive, you may not get as great of a learning experience there. You could do the online class and then sit next to your child to make sure that your child's paying attention in the online class. Sure. But like I said, I don't think it's the format that's the issue. Here's what I think we need to understand. That no matter the learning environment, it's the educators that need to pay attention. We're the adults. And home educators have to be a big part of their child's digital learning as much as anything that they're teaching themselves from a textbook. In other words, I would recommend that if you are using digital instruction like videos, watch them with your children, especially in the beginning. It's really important to learn together. You want to model how to properly learn when listening or watching instruction. Or you could watch the video on your own, learn the material, and you could just teach it directly to your child. Because here's what I know. Kids learn how to pay attention by watching someone who knows how to pay attention. Focus is not natural in our distraction-filled world these days. We're going to have to model it. We're going to have to do a better job because we get distracted too all the time. Do you think your kids see you being distracted? I guarantee you they do. But they also see you focused, and we need to be sharing the differences, the time and the place. When do we skim? Where do we really settle in and take the learning seriously? Because when parents sit with their child, I see this firsthand with my students and the families that sign up for our programs. The parents who are sitting with their children, pausing the videos, replaying anything that was confusing, taking notes together, talking out loud about what they're thinking, those kids are learning exactly what it should look like. And eventually, will they become independent and better at watching those digital instructions all on their own? Yes. And I think it's a part of their future. I don't think this is going away. So we need to teach it better. We need to model it. Without modeling it, these kids are going to just guess at how to learn. And most are going to default to skimming. It's easy. Or they're going to rush because they just want to be done. Or they're going to multitask because they feel like they can do many things at once. And as well, we cannot expect deep focus from a child who has never seen it practiced up close. Watching these videos is great exposure to learning, but actual learning is going to require interaction and applied practice of what they just watched. So when parents are doing this alongside their children, especially in the beginning, or learn the content first and teach it on their own, that's fine. Then kids are forced to maybe explain an idea or ask a question or slow down or maybe connect some new information to something they already know. And it turns passive content into active learning. That's what we want. And most kids, okay, who am I kidding? Most people will choose the easiest path available. That's not a character flaw. That's human nature. So parents stepping into the learning process is critical. When you do this, my friends, you're going to raise the standard for your kids. You're going to increase their follow through. You're going to help them build responsibility. You're going to teach them how they learn matters. And your kids are going to learn that effort is not just about finishing a task. It's about doing the work really well. And that's how kids are going to develop discipline and focus and learning stamina. And those skills do not grow in a hands-off environment. Too often, I hear from students who say that their parents are not around while they're learning. They're left to do this all independently. But that is not the best thing for our young learners. And my goal this week, while it may feel a bit heavy, I want to be so clear that I am not here to shame anyone or blame anyone, but I want to empower you. You have chosen to be a home educator, and I want to help you be even better at what you're doing. Your children are capable of deeper thinking, but focus is a skill that must be cultivated and taught and practiced. And I want you to remember that you're building these lifelong learning muscles with your kiddos. This is love. This is really strong love. It's just disguised as rigor. You're going to show up and do the hard work together. Yes, it may be a little bit harder. It will take more of your time. It may take away from something else. But here's what else I know. In the long run, you're never going to be sorry that you spent too much time teaching your children and holding them accountable and building strong skill sets in them. You could, however, wish you had done more, and I don't want that to happen. I want you to feel so good about the education that you are providing for your children, and it is so completely possible. I know you can do it. I know they can do it, and I'm always here to help. Right on. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. And hey, if you are feeling stretched thin and you would love some support with teaching writing, I offer programs designed to make that part of homeschooling easier and more enjoyable for both you and your child. I also have free resources on my website, so please be sure to check those things out and subscribe to the podcast. You do not have to do this alone. Right on.